Welcome to our channel. We keep sharing informational videos and updates with you. So please subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. Enjoy. Hi guys, today we are going to talk about objectivity. During the course of our discussion, we are going to talk about what exactly is objectivity. We will define the critiques of objectivity, as well as we will try to identify how much is it possible for us to objectivitize something, right? So that's what we are going to talk about in this particular discussion. So first of all, I will just define objectivity to you. I'll take an example along with, so that it will be easier for you to understand and comprehend it, right? So see, objectivity is something when you're trying to find out the exact history as to what happened in history, right? Which cannot be changed, right? So see, we are trying to write down an ultimate history which cannot be altered by any historian in future. We are trying to basically narrate the exact same thing as it happened in past, right? Now it does not happen quite often. Why? Because whoever narrates a story, even though they have manifests available to them, they could have architecture as their source, or they could have literature as their source. Even then, they could not actually give you an exact idea as to what happened in past. Why? Because their personal thinking dominates over them, right? So when you're trying to analyze something, your personal thinking will dominate over it, and then you will make a story about it, right? Taking an example here, we'll take this example where Kashmir, we have to decide whether Kashmir has to be a part of India or not. So some people would say obviously Kashmir has to be a part of India, right? And those people will give justification as per their personal thinking. They will say that Kashmir had Kashmiri Pandits in them much before it was dominated by Muslim people. So that thing, right? So they will think from their perspective, and obviously it will evolve around their perspective all the time, because it's a story, and they can give you any story on the manifest that they were presented, right? So if they have to decide, obviously their personal thinking is going to affect this conversation a lot. So yes, that is exactly what objectivity is. See, the example that I've given you, that is an example of subjectivity, right? So in order to be objective in that term, we have to kinda exclude the personal thinking part, and then focus on what exactly happened. So see, there were various historians. They have given different viewpoints. It's up to you on which part you agree upon, right? So the first one perhaps was shared by what's the name of the scholar? That's Peter Novick. Yeah, Peter Novick says that a historian has to be neutral from all the aspects. They should just grab all the sources that they have got, and let the sources talk for them. They should be neutral on their part. They should be in the middle of a road, and basically they'll have to judge from a judge's perspective, right? They could not be biased towards one part or another. A historian's role is to be as neutral as they can, right? That's what it is. Wait a minute. Now, several other historians say that it's not true. In fact, Thomas Haskell says that objectivity is not exactly neutrality. He has cited some examples of different historians whose theory was exactly objective, but that it was not neutral. It was biased to a certain extent, but it was objective. It was the exact history as before, and the history was presented by the proofs that they had, right? So Thomas Haskell is kind of just criticizing Nick whatever theory, right? And we go past it. That's about objectivity. Now we'll go talk about development of the principle of objectivity, right? So it's included in history. So there's one historian that says that since science has developed so much, we should actually include humanities in science as well. We can apply all the scientific methods to history as well, and history basically works as a natural phenomena, right? Whatever natural laws are there, that can be applied to history as well. That's what Auguste Comte believed, right? He's given three stages, where in the first stage he calls this theological or fictitious stage. So in theological stage, people used to explain their views by means of supernatural powers, and then we have the second stage, which is metaphysical. So in this stage, the process of nature were explained as arising from occult powers, right? You know what it means, occult powers, as in bad powers, some dark magic and all. So that's it. The third stage is positive stage, where a science has developed so much, and we can just justify everything using the laws of science, and we try to define the exact reason as to why things occur and all, right? So the followers of Comte were known as positivists. They are called positivists. And then we have another historian known as Thomas Ranke. So Mr. Ranke had confessed that we should apply the logic of critics, right? So we should not just accept any of the sources as it is in history. In fact, we should analyze it, criticize it as much as we can, and then after criticism, if it's found that the source exactly belonged to the era as it does, then we can reliably to the era. So Ranke was the one who believed that an ultimate history can be written, right? He said that if historians followed a proper scientific method and removed their personal thinking and personality from the investigation, then it is possible for historians to write an ultimate history. So here, ultimate history is nothing but a permanent history which cannot be altered in future, right? And ultimate history is defined as the way that it happened in past. It is exactly what it happened in past. So yes, that's what it is. Then there were other historians who criticized Ranke for his theory. They said that sources could be available to historians, but then it is up to them as to how they want to comprehend it, because obviously in any way possible their personal thinking is going to dominate over it, right? Over the way they comprehend it. And one of which was E.H. Carr. E.H. Carr said that history consists of a corpus of ascertained facts. So like a historian can have a fish, but then it's up to him how he cooks it, what spices he puts in, and everything else. So it's up to him how he presents it basically. He could have the same sources, but then the presentation style may differ from one person to another. It was also criticized by many other historians in 20th century, and his theory was called naive, and basically it was not good at all. That was just said by other historians, that it is very hard for historians to basically achieve an ultimate history, because there could be different scientific methods devised at different intervals of time, and they could reveal something different. We haven't gone to the extent where all the scientific methods have been applied to everything. In future date, we might discover new ways to find out what date it exactly belongs, and whatever, basically those new scientific methods will help us uncover more of it, right? So when we got to know about it, several ultimate history that we called earlier, but now we have come to the part of critiques, right? So now we are going to talk about critiques of objectivity. So we have several historians who believe that science is not exactly history, right? Scientific methods could not be applied to history. The first one, while scientist was external to the reality in nature, historian was involved in the process of constructing reality. So what he means by it is, historians basically narrate a story, so they basically construct a story, so they basically construct a reality of the past, while scientists are talking about it, what is already going on. They do not construct a reality. In fact, they just define as to why a certain thing is happening. So science is completely different from history, right? The field of research is completely different. So we are on the part of constraints of evidence and individual bias. So then we have another historian named Benedetto Croce. We are talking about cultural relativism. So in past, their culture might be different from their current culture. So historians believe that a historian's idea might be influenced by their current culture when they are trying to define past. However, it will not be the exact same in past either. It will differ to a whole lot extent, or perhaps would be the exact opposite. So yes, that could happen. Some historians believe that one of them was Geertz, Geertz. However you want to pronounce it, you do. I pronounce it this way, I will do that in this way as well. Not going into much detail here, just understand that, because obviously if one of it comes out, you have a whole lot of things to write about. The video has already gone up to 10 minutes or so, and you can write perhaps 2 to 3 pages with this much of information. Now we are going towards the other part, which is linguistic and postmodern turn. We have another historian whose name is Saussure. He basically says that language does not refer to real things in the world, right? It is not a medium to communicate meaning of the world, and the relationship between the language and the world is arbitrary. Language, according to Saussure, creates meaning on its own. Human thoughts are constituted by language. So basically he says that language is not the exact medium. Language could be fake. Language could be a huge lie. In historians, one source is through language. Now we have another historian named Barthes, who has heavily criticized history and historians. He says that whatever history has been created by historians is their own thinking, is their own creation basically, and it does not hold anywhere true to the reality of the past, and it does not hold. We have other historians as well who believe that history could be basically nothing. It collapses altogether if we did not have text or sources available to us. If we did not have source, then history is just a fan fiction. And we basically have more historians who just criticize history in the same way that it's just fiction, it's nothing to be compared with the reality of the past again. And that's what it all talks about. We have given much critiques of history anyway, right? Historians' point of view, where even historians have started doubting themselves as to whether they will be able to achieve a stage where history could be as objective as it should be. So then because obviously it all keeps on changing, theories are shared by different people at different intervals of time. One story is criticized by another historian, and the same criticism could be criticized by another historian, and that this loophole will keep going on and on and on, right? So it's basically very much impossible for historians to actually achieve a stage where a history could be called an objective. So now since the question that arises is whether it is even possible for us to attain objectivity. Well, that's still doubtful. However, we have a veto here. We can have sources once we give our theories to the world. Then the sources could manifest whether that's true or not. So the sources would have a veto power on it, whether to accept our theory or not, right? And then we can have criticism from other historians as well on the basis of the sources that were provided, and so this will keep going on, and it is slightly possible for us to achieve an objectivity at that point of time, because obviously when a criticism comes in and then a new theory emerges, so that's when we could say obviously one theory which kinda suits our sources as well, and then it has no other criticism, that can like 90% be called as an objective history, right? So that is the summary of it basically, guys. A whole 100% objective history is very hard to attain. However, we have tried to attain objectivity through the means of giving theories, taking criticism, and giving veto power to sources, right? That's how we are going to achieve objectivity. So obviously we can give our theories on it, and on the basis of the sources that historians have, some historians might criticize our theory, and then what happens is we will get to know about it. We can put another theory. So then if it is criticized, even if it is criticized, and if it goes according to the whatever sources that we have, obviously it cannot be in denial with the sources. It should be as per the sources, and then we have no criticism available for it. Say we have criticism available, but then they do not hold true to our subject, so that's when we can say that we have attained the objectivity at this point of time, right? And that's it, guys. So if you liked our hard work, please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.